Hola, mi amor. So, I want to start somewhere a little unsettling, so stay close with me. Most of the thoughts moving through your head right now, the certainties, the dread, that opinion you defend to the grave, you didn't think most of them. They were handed to you already sharp, and you've been carrying them around like they grew in your own soil. And by the end of this video, I want you to be able to feel the difference in your body between a thought that's actually yours and one that got installed in you. Because this new moon, the only one of its kind we get all year, is the night we set those borrowed beliefs and opinions down. On June 14th, the last new moon in Gemini until almost the next decade, and with it arrives a tarot card which sits underneath this decan, this degree of Gemini, which has the oldest, gnarliest name in the whole deck. We're going to get there in just a second because it'll explain everything about why your mind has felt like a browser with 90 tabs open and no way to close them. So this is the through line, and I'm only going to ask you to hold one picture this whole way through, this whole journey through. You laying in a field, impaled with a bunch of swords in your back. And the work of this lunation is learning which ones have your fingerprints on the handle and which ones don't. Here's what's actually happening, because once you feel it, you can't unfeel it. Gemini is the nervous system of the whole zodiac. It's perception, language, the restless scanning for the next interesting thing, the part of you that picks up every signal in the room. That's the gift. But this new moon lands at the very end of Gemini, 24 degrees, the last stretch of the sign. And by the end of Gemini, all that scanning has scanned itself to the bottom of the well. Therefore, the brilliance curdles. The curiosity that kept you alive turns into the argument you keep replaying in your mind. The hot take you can't stop refining. The spiral that feels like contemplation but is really just the same loop running over and over and over again. And we're doing this inside the loudest information storm any human nervous system has ever stood in. We are consuming more than anyone who has ever lived. So, of course, the mind won't quiet down. It's overstimulated. And a lot of what's filling it in was put there on purpose by something that profits from you spiraling. Now, the last decan or slice or 10%, 10 degrees of Gemini has a name in the tarot, and it's the 10 of Swords. Picture a figure face down at the edge of the water with 10 swords in their back. 10, when one would have been enough. Swords are intellect, perceptions, our thoughts. 10 of Swords is the mind that didn't just lose an argument, it kept stabbing itself long after the argument was over. The oldest name for this card is the Lord of Ruin, and it is Gemini at the bottom of the well, the overthinker who thought their way into a corner. But look past the body for just a second here, because here's what almost everyone misses. In the distance, the black sky is already cracking open. There's a strip of gold on the horizon. The worst has already happened. When you've hit the 10 of Swords, you're not at the start of the disaster. You're at the turn. The dawn is drawn right into this card. And here's where I want to take it somewhere that the tarot books don't really go to. They'll tell you those 10 swords, those wounds are self-inflicted. Your own rumination doing the stabbing, and some of them are. But go back to the picture and actually count them. How many of those blades did you forge yourself? And how many got handed to you already sharp by something you scrolled past 3 minutes ago and absorbed as your own conviction? Because that's the thing. We are carrying all these swords that aren't even ours, baby. These feeds, these algorithms don't just tire you out, they install something in us. You wake up certain of things you never even examined, afraid of things you were trained to be afraid of, exhausted by 100 crises you can't even touch, each implanting an illusory sword in the mind. Knowledge is being used as a weapon against us. False certainties with no heart in it, divisive truths that humiliate and flatten and keep everyone spiraling in their own echo chambers. We are watching this energy run during elections in real time. We are watching the press get pointed at the people it's supposed to serve. This is the year where you can fake a voice off 3 seconds of audio. The year where the ability to know what's real is itself in crisis. And from this, two very clear circles are being forged. There's the circle of concern, which is all the noise, every headline, the prices climbing, people who can't make their rent, war and fear mongering, the whole barrage of information you did not consent to and cannot fix by worrying harder. And then there's a circle of influence, which is much smaller and is the only place anything actually moves. The circle of influence is what you do with the blade once it reaches you, whether you alchemize it into care, compassion, and presence, or whether you turn around and aim it toward the next person's back. And look, y'all, I'm in this with you. I'm not forecasting this energy from some clean place outside of this shitstorm. No, ma'am. No ham and no turkey. I build with these same tools every single day. The only question I've found worth asking is whether I'm making something beautiful with what's in my hands, my spirit, my soul, or just adding another sharp thing to the pile. That's what's worth discerning with this lunation. Not avoiding the information at all costs, but rather becoming an intentional source of influence in this cacophony of nonstop noise, because it's only going to get louder, you know? So if the mind can't fix this, what does this new moon actually want? Well, let's talk about the planetary ruler of Gemini. The ruler of this lunation, mi amor, is Mercury, the planet that runs Gemini, which has just walked out of Gemini and into Cancer, into the feeling, the body, the water, the one in charge of the thinking sign lunation, left the newsroom and went to the heart of the home. Therefore, the answer this month isn't to sharpen our logic, it's to exercise a different organ, understanding that some truth must be felt before it's reasoned with. We gotta know this information in our gut before we start building a case around it. And that felt sense is the one discernment tool a deep fake can't counterfeit. They can clone a face and a voice, but they cannot clone connection or belonging, this felt sense of communal love. Because here's the seed this new moon is actually planting. Gemini is the word. Cancer is the home. So watch what happens when the word crosses from one into the other. Your language stops being clever and it starts being architecture. You're building something with every word you speak, whether you mean it or not. Either sending daggers out into the collective void or building a home, a sanctuary where people you love can actually come to and rest inside of. That's the seed of this whole lunation, the safe spaces we build with our words. And I have to bring this into something because this stopped being theory for me a couple weeks ago. You know, I make these videos and most of what comes back is so much love. I don't always know what to do with all that love. And I'm so grateful and I'm so appreciative. And then one comment came in, and out of a whole sea of kindness, this one comment, my body, it grabbed onto it and would not put it down. Let me just read it out loud to you real quick. What the shit did I just watch? Basically, some gay dude tells you to get in your feelings and something about getting behind something or another. That upspeak shit is really irritating. I thought it was annoying when women did it, but I had no idea how irritating upspeak from a soy boy could be. Mind you, this is the first time I've ever even heard the term soy boy. But regardless, this comment, I felt it land in my chest. I opened the reply box. I had this whole clever surgical thing half written, the thing that would put him in his place, right? My hand was on that sword, baby. And then I really don't fully know why I got curious instead. Because the question that stopped me was this. Out of thousands of kind words, why is this one I'm carrying in my body? And when I actually turned the blade over and I looked at it, it wasn't even his. The contempt for softness, the contempt for women, the idea that a man with feelings is something to mock. Somebody handed him every bit of that long before he ever found my video. He was just passing down that blade, passing it down the line. And that is the practice. That is the discernment this whole new moon is teaching. And it's something you can actually do right now. When something triggers you, when one opinion lights you up out of 100 that charge your body in a way, well, there's a signal there. And before you swing back and before you swallow it, get curious about the blade. Pick it up, turn it over, and ask the only question that sorts yours from theirs. Is this even mine? Whose hand forged this before it ever even reached me? Most of the time, you are holding something sharpened generations before you were even born. And the whole freedom is realizing that you get to decide right there whether you drive it into the next person or you set it down. And I'll tell you where this is landing for me, because this new moon sits in the exact part of my chart an astrologer builds their whole life's work out of. My teaching, what I put out into the world, the ninth house of philosophy, belief building, and meaning making. And look at what I'm doing. I'm literally building a whole school from this exploration, something I like to call revolutionary astrology, out loud on stage, where you all get to watch me do it, making me vulnerable to opinions and perceptions of people who are armed with their own artillery. And the thing that comet lit up inside of me was this urge to armor myself, to defend my take on things, and to make this beautiful, safe, open, and inclusive space into a fortress. But a fortress is just a home with all those swords pointing outward, right? And the truth is that I don't have all of this worked out. I'm in it as I say it to you right now in person. I'm still human. Do not put me on some pedestal. I could look at all these divisive swords flying about, impaling the most vulnerable, inflicting all this fear, projecting an agenda of hate and intolerance, and yet still, I would rather build a sanctuary, a home for all you beautifully colorful people to find some grounding and sanity in a world of uncertainty. And that to me is revolutionary. That is evolution. We cannot let these daggers get the best of us. And with our beliefs, our opinions, and our ideologies, we can either build heaven or hell here on earth. So let's come back to where we all started. You in a field, stuck with a back full of swords, except now you can see them differently. Some are real, and they finished their work a long time ago, and you're allowed to set them down. And some were never yours at all. So on the 14th, in the dark of this new moon, reach back and pull one out, just one, the most borrowed blade you got. Turn it over, ask whose hand forged it. And if the answer isn't you, set it down and plant one thing you actually feel in the soft dark where it was. One thing that's yours, not one you were handed. Tell me in the comments down below, which swords are you pulling out and what are you planting where it was? Trust and believe I read these. Let this space be an integrative space. That is what the comment section is all about. And if you want to know which part of your chart this lunation is working on and why your mind has felt this electric energy all year, well, then go watch my Uranus and Gemini video. That's the bigger weather this whole new moon is happening inside of. And on that note, come on over to the collective. I have personalized readings over there. I have your horoscopes. I have workshops. I have courses and an online real-time community out of these spaces where we're integrating all this medicine with in real time, okay? Membership information down below in the description. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for being here. I love you so much. Bye for now.